Anyway, the reason I'm doing a video today is because of this Iran thing. I got up this morning and I started checking Twitter just to see if there was news updates, and I didn't even get very far on Twitter when it's just ridiculous how many people are doing the snowflakey whining and crying about this whole situation. And I will be right back. Yeah, they're whining and they're crying and they're moaning and they're complaining about war, and war is hell and innocent people are injured in war and so on. This is just, it's not a very deep thought process, and it's, been romanticized and glorified when the hippies did it, because it was suddenly a cool, groovy thing to do if you just, sat on your rear end and didn't have a job and made love, not war. It's a ridiculous, infantile reaction to a reality of this life. Most liberals believe in evolution. Evolution is about the strong survive. That's what Darwin was saying. Well, how do the strong survive? By trampling all over the weak. Again, hang on a minute. When wolves attack their prey, who do they go for? Do they go for the strongest bull in the herd? No, they go for the weak. They go for the sick. They go for the old. This is nature. This is, Gaia. This is the thing these people want to worship. Rocks and sticks and inanimate objects and non-sentient beings and so on. And they want to ignore the realities of life, and war is a reality of life. It's been around forever. It's how people try to improve their lot, try to gain control in their area, etc. And sorry, but yes, you snowflakes, the natives warred on each other too, and they have historical records of it. So yeah, there have been peaceful cultures. Sure, you can be a peaceful culture if you want. That doesn't guarantee everybody's going to leave you alone. One of the countries in the world that nobody's messing with? Switzerland, right? They are neutral, but they are armed to the teeth. If you're going to try to take over Switzerland, you're going to have to fight every inch, and predators don't want to do that either. They don't. They want easy targets. Anyway, the whole reason I brought this up is because the tweets reveal a lot of people commenting have no historical perspective. They have no idea of how terrorism started, and they blame Trump. Oh, Trump started this war and he needs to end it, and we need to just sit down and all suck our thumbs and, First of all, if you make peace with these Islamic terrorists, that will only last until they decide to do some other terrorist activity. Their idea of peace is not our idea of peace. They're terrorists. Now, I'm not saying that Iranian people, Iraqi people, they are the victims of their governments and their terrorists. And they want that peace, the same one we want, where you can walk to the store and buy your groceries and go home and send your kids to school and not have to worry about something blowing up. Got it. Modern terrorism has been around for, 20, 30, about 50 years. And it started right around the early 70s, which I realize today was right after the Vietnam War ended. The Vietnam War, which was a conventional war, ends, and the Cold War, the Cold War is going on, and Berlin and so on, it's after World War II, so it's sort of concurrent and also forward. And then these leftist extremist groups groups like M19 and the Weather Underground and Black September and the Red Army, they are extreme left-wing. They are communist-based normally, or anarchists, things of that nature. They get this idea, and it's not a new idea, but I don't know who introduces it into their minds. Like I said, Weather Underground was a big influence, Black Panthers and so on. They decide they're going to do terrorist acts instead, which are very, very similar to what Sherman did marching down the coast of America during the Civil War. They are going to go from the military style of doing warfare, where the people who are in the militaries understand what is going to happen. They understand their soldiers, they understand they're going to go to battle, and they understand they could be injured. And they have a whole machine around them. They have, ammunition suppliers and medics and cooks, and it's a whole big thing. And these people are who wage war on each other. There's very little civilian involvement. And this, in my opinion, is the honorable way to do what people do, fight each other. Because the young men are the one doing the fighting. And it's sad if the young men get killed, but they're volunteering for it, and they are testing their own mettle when they do it. The terrorism idea is use nasty, messy techniques in a very public way to get your political aims across. And the terrorists want to use innocent civilians. They want to use women and children. They want to make a big statement and somehow gain a political base or some sort of political power from their act of terror to scare everybody into doing what they want. This, I think, is very cowardly. And it, like I said, it starts back in the early 70s. And one of the actions that got worldwide attention, so for those terrorists, it did exactly what they wanted to happen, and it was Palestinians who were complaining that Israel was given back some of the land that biblically has been theirs forever. After the war, Israel is given Jerusalem and surrounding parts back, and the Palestinians are complaining, and they're kind of hooked up with some Germans too, who are sympathetic, and they kidnap Israeli athletes, Olympic athletes, at the 1972 Olympic Games. Now, what is the whole purpose of the Olympics? Worldwide togetherness, peace, understanding, cultural mixing, the whole thing. And these terrorists, who are armed, of course, go into an unarmed Olympic camp, and they take these 12 and a West German police officer, and they murder them. They murder them. Think about that. They just kill them in cold blood. These athletes do not have any chance of defending themselves. Cowardly. Total cowardly act. And that got worldwide attention, and that's when terrorism, modern terrorism as we know it, starts gaining a foothold. And, little communist groups all over the world are like, hey, see, we can get power if we just keep doing these things. It's not a democratic way of gaining power. It's not, the Republican youth from Minnesota taking hostages from some international group and killing them. This is not how freedom-loving people act. This is the acts of cowards and people who don't care about the people. Communism is supposed to be a thought process where everybody's equal. The people gain power. Power to the people. That doesn't happen under communism. The people are stomped all over by members of the Communist Party. It's just like capitalism, only it's wrapped up in ideology where they do stupid stuff with their people, like take someone out of their little village and say, you're going to be an engineer now. Get to work. It's ridiculous. And they, or maybe you don't, do some research. Research communism. It doesn't work. Communist governments collapse. They don't have a sustainable system. They leech the resources out of their own countries. They squash their people, and then it collapses. So it's these people and the Islamists. Palestinians are Islamic with the idea of jihad, and it's okay to kill non-believers, and we have to do a holy war because we need Western ideals are creeping into our culture, and by golly, women need to be covered from head to foot, and just all of that stuff. And I'm not saying Palestinians specifically are like that. Palestinians do use terrorism to try to gain their ends, and they've been fighting the Israelis forever. And I don't think they have a legal foot to stand on as far as Israel being theirs, because the Bible establishes it as God's place thousands of years before that. Just saying. And it's an age-old thing there, because I'm pretty sure it's either the Lebanese or the Palestinians are actually genetic Philistines, and they've been fighting the Hebrews forever. So anyway, get some perspective. Trump did not start this fight. This fight started back in the early 70s, and we have been the victims of it for a long time. The Iranians who took over the American embassy kept people hostage. They've been keeping hostages the whole time. Canadians and Brits and all kinds of things. ISIS beheading people. There is no argument for terrorism being any kind of system that anybody can support. It's just a cowardly, violent, political way of life, and it's non-supportable. So Twitter, get smarter. All right, bless you. Shalom.